Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a very chilled out session, fun, absolutely intended, on India's infrastructure readiness for tomorrow's pharmaceutical sector. Today, the stakes are high, temperatures are low, and expectations are global. From first mile pickup that feels like a treasure hunt to a last mile deliveries that resembles a relay race. The journey of temperature sensitive pharma is nothing but ordinary. As, as well, we all know that India is one of the largest provider of generic medicines globally, yet nearly contributing close to around 30% of the temperature-sensitive pharma products, which are still at risk due to the infrastructure gaps. I hope you will all agree with me on this. That's like sending an ice cream across the country in a paper bag, right? Ambitious, but not ideal. So today, we have a wonderful panelist and we are going to ask them tough questions. Like, is India truly ready to meet the evolving demand of pharma logistics? Can we ensure product integrity from pickup to the delivery without breaking the cold chain or the banks? And what role do the innovation, collaboration, and the policy play in keeping things cool under pressure? So I'm joined by a fantastic panel here, which is we have pharma manufacturers, we have logistics service providers, and specialized health movers, and the cargo handlers. These are the Avengers of our logistics industry today. I would like to name them as, right? And together we are all going to explore how each of them is navigating through this complex landscape and helping us all stay ahead of the curve. Right? So my first question is, to Devang. So Devang, India is a global pharma powerhouse. But when it comes to cold chain infrastructure, are we truly aligned with international compliance standards? And what are the key areas where we are falling short today? And where are we already leading the way?
Okay, first of all, thank you for inviting me to this panel. And all my views are very personal. These are not related to any of my organization's views. These are all my personal experiences. Now, coming back to your question about the readiness of the cold chain. See, Indian pharma market is very, very mature today. And the kind of investment that has been done by the manufacturers or the service providers and collaborating everyone coming onto the same platform, so we can start understanding how the pharma has to be transported from destination 1 to destination 2, be it domestic or be it on the international level also. If you go back maybe a decade or maybe 2 decades ago, the norm like 15 to 25 or 2 to 8 degree or vaccines was not that very common at every level. But today, if you go to the people who are actually touching the cargo at the transporter, at the cargo service centers, the people who are actually touching the cargo are also aware, they are looking at labels, and accordingly they are ensuring that the cargo are transported in a particular way. Of course, there is very, very important from the cold chain point of view, the right, right discriminations are there, what is 15 to 25, what is 2 to 8 degree, so they are properly stored in a particular chamber, and then they are. So the most important aspect over here as a would be how can we eliminate the human errors, because the cargo cannot talk. The cargo does not sense, the cargo cannot express itself. Look, I am 15 to 20, I am 2 to 8 degree. Please put me in a particular chamber only. But it is how a person who is actually executing, which is interface between the actual human and the technology. The technology is how the documentation flow, how the internal processes of the various service providers, the agents, the cargo service centers, the manufacturers are transported, populated to the people, and the actual ground staff are handling. That is very, very important. Point number 1. Point number 2 is, yes, there is another element where the manufacturers can also come forward and look at the overall stability, because every geography will have a different weather. Be it India, it could be like below 30 degrees. If you go into the Middle East, what kind of route, what kind of path you are checking in the Europe or anywhere. So every destination where your cargo is actually touching, there will be a various different time zones and the temperature conditions. So for all those temperature conditions, you need to ensure that from the back end, you have a stability data. So with that kind of spikes, variations, when the cargo is unloaded from the aircraft and they take it to the warehouse, there will be some spike because solution. Though we have the cold trucks, everything at the hubs and at the destination, still it is not very intact and there will be some kind of variations. So to combat that thing, I believe the manufacturers can come forward and they can do some stability data, some checks, so thereby they can pass and process their batches the market for the distribution purpose. That is one thing. Second thing is on the risk aspect, we can introduce IoT, which is the real-time data loggers. The real-time data loggers can enable you to trigger whenever loggers can give an information whenever they are going down or up or whatever it is, how you are triggering, and you can measure those things in a particular way, informing the destination also, origin also, so the people can react accordingly. Because we can also call up to the required teams and they can inform them, okay, look, the temperature is not parked in a particular way and it is sensing me that temperature loggers are giving me information which are not as per my requirement. So this is the another area where we can create that awareness, and actually industry has already started adopting this thing and this is actually helping the manufacturers. So these are the three takeaways.
Correct. Correct. I completely agree with you. Yes, innovation still has a lot of way to travel.
Yep.
Right. We are still nowhere close to where we have such wish list yet to comply with. So my next question, Vijay, to you is, from highways to the handling hubs, what are the biggest infrastructure gaps that you encounter in maintaining the temperature control movements across India? And are there any specific region or stages in the supply chain that are consistently challenging your operations?
Thank you for the question, and thank you, organizer, for inviting me. In India, pharma, I would say Indian pharma companies are actually ruling today almost every part of the world. But when it comes to India, let's also understand the channel in how it actually, your product moves to the patients, and particularly the cold chain. So from manufacturing to your mother warehouse, from mother warehouse to the distributor's warehouse, from the distributors to the retailers, and finally there is a patient who's actually buying this product from us. Today, I would say from a manufacturing perspective, we are taking care if any product which has a temperature control and to be maintained and transported. From a manufacturing perspective, we are making sure we are carrying it in a particular reefer vehicle with data loggers till it reaches the warehouse, a mother warehouse, and when transporting also, those checks and balances are in place. But the moment it is transported to our distributors, that's where there's a big black hole, okay? And from distributors to the retailers, and then finally, when the patient is buying, the patient is assuming that this particular product, whether it is oncology or whether a particular antibiotic, must have been stored in a particular temperature. I think that's a huge gap that we have across I would say, the entire network. Okay? It's not that retailers don't have, I would say, temperature storage facility, but are they adequate enough to store it? Similarly, when it comes to the distributor, unlike FMCG and pharma, the distributors are not dedicated to an organization. One distributor can have 40 organizations. It could be a blend of multinationals as well as the Indian company. And that's where the whole thing actually, I would say, gets divided. And a similar product, when we actually want to export it, you do everything possible. But when it comes to India, from a distribution standpoint of view, I feel that's a huge gap where I would say there's an opportunity for all of us, whether it is manufacturers or logistics service providers, and in fact, even the government of India to actually look into it in terms of making sure the product integrity and patient safety is actually taken on priority. So cold chain, when you talk about the reason why product is in cold chain, because it requires a particular storage condition to meet the efficacy level of the product. If that is not stored, whether it is injections or anything, it doesn't make any sense. So I think that's where I would say we have still some opportunity and a long way to go in terms of addressing those needs.
Yes, very well said. But today I'm actually happy to know that there's another black hole. All the way in the supply chain industry, I've only heard about a black hole, which is the airport. As a black hole from a perspective that you don't get any other information. But today the airports, the way they are all implementing, the air cargo community systems, which does gives you lots of insights in terms of with data stamps. Right, we had the earlier panel, we had Kale there. There are a couple of other guys, who are developing, a wonderful, the air cargo community systems, which is under the guidance of the National Aviation Policy, right? So at our airport, you does get visibility end to end. But what I meant to say here is that knowing that there's another black hole, which is not the airport, but it is at the distributor's end. But a question back to you is that while what we are talking about today, the challenges that we are addressing, these are not new challenges. These challenges has existed years and years. Why are we still failing? Why are we still not able to, bridge the gap? Who is supposed to take a responsibility in such scenarios?
I would say manufacturers to an extent can take that responsibility. I would say when you appoint a distributors, you can always do a site audit whether the distributor has the adequate infrastructure to store your cold chain, and also look at their practices in terms of how do they actually make sure it goes to the retail part. Okay? Many a times in our audit, like we have, I would say many of the distributors have failed to actually meet the requirement as well. But then again, it's more of a stopgap arrangement where we end up giving our packaging solution to them, saying that, okay, you are not able to do it, here's your packaging solution, because of which we end up investing slightly more. It's not that there are good distributors who are involved. Okay? Coming back to from a distribution per se, okay? In India, particularly in the pharma segment, still I would say the 3PL methodologies or which the concept is yet to pick up in a large way. We still work, I would say, more from a C&F models. Now, the C&F models are either organizations who are local people who knows the promoters or have been there in the association or some kind of regulatory. They are running it for long period and they get a particular, I would say, percentages over the sales called C&F commission. Now that's where I would say the differentiation has to happen. We at Alkem, I would say, did a 3PL project with one of the organizations called JWL, where we actually did a pilot, and the pilot got successful. Now we are looking at how do we actually, I would say, adopt it into other sectors as well, other regions as well, okay, where we have almost like entire domestic operations. It's more of not box in, box out, it is box in because the retailers don't buy in big box, it's like pieces and eaches as well. So I think that's the kind of, I would say, change management is what I would say organizations should also look at. And our distributors, where we can restrict in terms of audit, periodic audit. And at the retail level, there is real challenge because at the metros, definitely you will have chemists who will have ACs, but you go to tier 2, tier 3 or rural areas, you would not find those kind of things. Many times we have seen when we went for audit, our products or our injections have actually changed colors, and we had to educate and tell the retailers, don't sell this. Send it back as market return, saying the white is not there. It's not that a particular cold chain does not have a stability. We do that stability requirement at a particular temperature, but at any given point of time, there is a marker beyond that you should not go, because of which the product efficacy level will change and the color of the product is bound to change, which is not safe for usage.
Okay, so it still remains as a collective and the shared responsibility of all the stakeholders in the value chain.
I just,
Yeah.
to add To what Vijay has said, I think if we have to agree or understand, most of the distributors in the India today are not selected maybe in last 2, 3, 5 or 10 years. They are associated with the manufacturers from the last maybe 20, 25 or 30 or 40 odd years when the actual pharma market was evolving in the 1980s or the 80s the world. So at that time, depending upon their financial capabilities and their urge, they were appointed as a maybe some local distributor, and then they grew up to the national distributors. But the good part, what's happening today, if I have to understand, there is a second generation which is coming and who are taking the lead, who are coming from that particular mindset and the background that they are actually making a discrimination that we are working for a pharma company and how that particular thing has to be transported. They are doing certain qualification in terms of appointing the transporters or the service providers or the team also who are actually at the warehouse or maybe at the billing section, so they can do those kind of discriminations and they can do the right billing, they can communicate. They are investing in the again technologies also. So they are informing to their partners in the supply chain, be it stockists or the retailers, and they take the feedback from them also. So all those information flow is also evolving, which is enabling. Yes, there are certain pain points like Vijay pointed out. Okay, seeing is the believing. While we are doing all those efforts from our side, but when you actually travel and look at the retailers or at the stockist level, you will find the real picture how they are actually the stocks. So that is there, but actually if you compare, there is a lot of awareness, there is a lot of noise in the system, which is why I would say the market complaints are steadily going down and down and down.
Okay, perfect, got it. So moving on to Tejas. Tejas is from Reliance Life Science. So Tejas, the question to you is clinical trials, biologics, commercial pharma logistics have their own unique demands, right? So how do infrastructure limitations affect these segments differently? And what kind of support and innovation is needed to bridge these gaps?
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sure.
So good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thank you for inviting me and glad to be part of this panel. And as earlier my two colleagues have said, I'm representing my company, but views expressed are by my own and company doesn't have exact say on that. However, the experience I have gone is working with them, that's for sure. Before I go into the actual answer, what we have been questioned for, any guesses how much big industry worldwide cold chain logistics is? It's close to $341 billion and growing at a rate of 15.3%. That means every 4 years it's doubling. And within that cold chain, the pharma industry is 24 billion. If you see, we are a very small part of a bigger cold chain industry. And if we talk about Indian cold chain industry, it's close to $23 billion. And within that, Indian pharma is hardly $1.2, $1.3 billion. So if we say that we are part of cold chain industry, we are very critical as far as people are concerned. But cold chain is a bigger concept, what we are talking about. However, if we talk for Indian pharma cold chain logistics, in last 5 years, it has changed a lot. Why? One is definitely government has put up a lot of awareness. Second important part is investment done by private industries for the cold chain infrastructure. And most importantly, the product mix which India is going to get, or it has got in last 5 years and in future. We are getting more and more monoclonal antibodies, biosimilar products, and high-end products where sophisticated cold chain management is a must. If I say it's a prerequisite to start with. And that is why we see so many companies, so many infrastructure being built, including our airports. So this has been a consistent effort, and we at Reliance Life Science, we deal with a lot of government business. And it's very heartening to know government itself has invested. Today, government supply, every district level, they are trying to create a cold chain warehouse. That itself is something for a country like India is very heartening to know, the cold chain importance which has been given. So I think all of us have a bright future. Yes or no? We are part of industry and we should be very proud of it. I think cold chain has been considered a very important topic for pharma and now it's moving on. Coming to the subject what we are talking about, why exactly talking of biological products, finished good products and most of the clinical trial. If I talk about in general, India has a problem of what? An infrastructure, whether it's a road, whether it's a rail, whether it's an airport or it's a port. This It's not that it's not, but we need a more sophisticated way of managing them. We need a better infrastructure, evolved infrastructure, matching to the global standard. Second important part is the newer technologies are coming into place. What is the cost of adaptation of that? And our Indian pharma companies, forget about big boss or big companies, we have so many manufacturers, are they in a position to adopt that? What is the cost constraint they are facing? And most important part is all this, what are the packaging solution needs are? Are we getting those needs satisfied? So far, in most of the cases, we are accustomed to the packaging solution available mostly by a handful of companies. Indian companies are now evolving and they are coming with so many packaging solutions. But are they enough? Probably time will tell. So 3 critical things I talk about is packaging solutions, infrastructure, and most importantly, technology, which is at higher cost today. I'm sure with the place of time, it will happen. Now coming to the specific questions, biologics, clinical trials, and finished products. I think I call them as a journey from boys to men. Why? Because cold chain is a very important subject all through, but clinical trials are very, very critical. They have so many challenges, either time constraint. In one of the clinical trial study which we had with Reliance Life Sciences, we have to ensure starting from the time of collection to the delivery at the testing site within 4 hours. And in many metros, practically difficult. Even infrastructure challenges what we have, road, rail or air, it restricts our selection of site to a specific metros or A-class cities. We can't go to the smaller places. Most important part is packaging solutions. Even for 2 vials, we had to hire a bigger box which was a cost effective. And the cost of entire box was much higher than the overall cost. So these are the challenges we face in clinical trial because the needs are very specific. You can't do here and there. And remember, you're based on clinical trial, your product approvals are going to happen. And on top of it, you're going to market the product. So you need to treat clinical trial with the utmost care. When it comes to biologics, what I have understood is they are high value products. Yes, their values are very high, but volumes may be limited. But they are a little more flexible than clinical trial products. Still, they are evolving, so we need to handle them with care. So for them, I always tell my team, always done a pre-planning, and most importantly, be precise in your execution. If that is the case, you will never have any issue for biologics. And now comes to the finished good. I call them as a last mile delivery. I have enough experience with that earlier 2-stage. Product stability study has been done, and then product has been launched. So we are far more confident compared to the earlier 2 stages. And here, I always say, train the people and ensure that cross-functional coordination is ensured, whether it's internal customer or external customer. If we do this, all 3 do have challenges, but we can mitigate and we can come up with the solutions which are well within the acceptable scenarios.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. So moving on to my next panelist, my friend here, he is giving a tough competition to Coldplay. Ask me how. He has been doing more road shows in India than Coldplay did. He was in Bangalore, he was in Delhi, he was in Mumbai, he was in Ahmedabad, I don't know where. Yep. But, coming to, Roland, very specific, he's from Expeditors. You have seen cold chain operations across the globe, right? Yep. Now, how does India compare in terms of infrastructure maturity? Are we catching up or we are still playing catching up? What lessons can we learn from the more advanced markets like US and Europe?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for the question and for the opportunity. And honestly, to respond to these questions, there are a couple of factors we need to look at. One of the factors is the infrastructure in terms of depth and reach within India. So still there is a big challenge to reach to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Not only the infrastructure in terms of road infrastructure, if we talk about healthcare capabilities, cold chain capabilities, cold chain warehouses, reefer truck service providers, and then when I talk about those, there are plenty in the market. Now, the question is, are they qualified to do so? Are they validated? Are they audited, right? And this is what we need to look at in the India market. Now, from an airport capabilities perspective, also we have a lot of challenges. Try to move an active container out of the airport. There's no way, right? you need to bring the product in a reefer truck to the airport to load at the airport itself. And then at the airport itself, the loading, right, the offloading of the product is in general cargo, where the product will be exposed, right? Even if you bring it in an active packaging solution and pay whatever you have to pay at the airport, the bond to bring it out, then when you bring it in, you go to the screening machine. You can't get it in. Then you need to take the product out of the packaging solution, right? Screen it, weigh it, measure it, do whatever you want to do, and then load it again. And then if it is a 2 to 8 product, then this is another breach for the temperature control part of the operation. So the cold chain is not efficient on that side, right? From a good distribution practices, you hear a lot about good distribution practices all across India, right? And yes is the easiest answer. Try to audit that service provider, try to audit that warehouse, try to audit that trucking company, and then you would see that yes has different meanings in India or anywhere in the world, right? But you need to always qualify this yes. So when we talk about how ready it is, right? We need to talk about infrastructure. We need to talk about the regulations. So who's responsible? And you were saying that the responsible is the manufacturer. Yes, as per the GDP guidelines, the responsible of the product integrity is the manufacturer. What about the regulators? What is their role here, right? How are they controlling, maintaining the integrity of the product within India and for export and for import? How strong is the legislation? And even if the legislation is there, how strong is the implementation of this legislation? Where is the India FDA from auditing anyone who is handling the cold chain? From us, well, I'll start by us as a logistics service provider, right? Because we do have facilities also, to the manufacturer, to the distributor, even to the pharmacist himself, because the last mile is the most important mile, and within India, it's the most dangerous mile, because this is where the black hole is. If we do all what we do all together, and then at the last mile, this is not properly maintained, right, and the integrity of the product is being compromised, and it's reaching the patient in bad condition, then what's the use of all what we are doing, right? Let's take driving, okay? How can we make driving in India same way as driving in Dubai? You count on people consciousness? I say no, right? Because there's a lot of education and training to all involved in order to reach to that stage. And the same is in the cold chain side, because training is very important on all levels. So people read in one book, right? So lately there was a nationwide GDP guidelines, okay, that was published. It is still a kind of just a guideline for the time being, right? How are we enforcing it along the country, right? So if I will talk about the preparedness of the Indian market from a ground handling perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, GDP compliance, legislations, even the logistics efficiency in terms of customs, in terms of visibility, in terms of tracking, speediness, right? I would say if I want to rank India versus Europe versus the US, I will give India 7 to 7.5 in the best case scenario over 10, right? I will give the US between 8 and 8.5 over 10 because the US is catching up with Europe now very fast. And I will give Europe 9 and 9.5 over 10. And all of that because eventually the GDP guidelines, it came from Europe, right? So UK and Ireland have set the guidelines and then it was spread all over the world. And this guideline is backed up by legislations, by enforcement, by audit, by the MHRA and the HPRA, right? They are auditing everyone who is touching the product. So we need to read My opinion, we need to read in one book, all of us, from trucking service provider to logistics service provider to warehousing service provider to manufacturer. The guidelines are one, right? The GDP guidelines are one for everyone, those guidelines. It has to be one SOP, one KPI that everyone is following. And this is why making India better, I would say we need to take a community approach, right? Where we have to read in one guideline, one SOP, follow the same KPI, agree what each and every one of us is expecting from the other person. For us, the expectation from a logistics service provider, it is always to be the logistics arm of our manufacturer, is to be the partner, is to be the quality compliant logistics service provider, ready for an audit at any time. I don't need 1 month or 2 months or 3 months for my customers to audit me. If they come tomorrow and audit me, I should be GDP compliant. I shouldn't have any observations, right? The expectations from the manufacturers and from the customers, from the logistics service provider, is to understand the local and global rules and regulations to support them in their product launches anywhere in the world. So you need to understand the regulation, right? You need to support them in the HS code classifications in new markets that they are venturing, and this is what the generic companies look at. Someone who is strategic and not someone who is like spot quoting for one shipment, one pallet, 4 pallet. This is not cost efficiency. So there's a lot that we can offer. We work a lot on lane risk assessment. Why we don't create healthcare corridors, right, in India, okay? So we do have airports. We can upgrade those airports. Still, it is lacking the tarmac part at the airport in India, right? There are cool dollies. Try to ask for the cool dollies, or there's no enough number of cool dollies to be used, or there's a malfunction in the cool dolly, right? And if it's a big batch you have, you won't be able to cover all the pallets that you have. So why we don't create a reefer truck service inside the airport where they can protect the integrity of the product, right? From the airport warehouse to the aircraft, from the aircraft to the airport warehouse, like they do in Doha, which is, I would say, the most efficient way, much, much better than the cool dollies because of the limitation of the number of the cool dollies that they can put aside the aircraft. Sometimes they can only allocate 2 cool dollies where the requirement is for 4 or for 5 cool dollies, and they take the rest as fast as possible. And then this is another gap. So we need to take a community approach. We take, for example, the Brussels airport. We take, for example, the Antwerp port. It's a community approach where they are setting one book, one guideline, one KPI, one expectation that everyone needs to follow. And most important, when we create those healthcare corridors, we need to close the loop. So there is no use for the Antwerp port to be GDP compliant if the destination port is the weak link of the chain, right? So those corridors should be end-to-end covered in terms of maintaining the cold chain integrity and the compliance on a GDP side. So this is my opinion about where we are. This is my opinion about what we can do more to enhance lane risk assessment, qualifications of lanes, supporting the manufacturer to ensure we close all the gaps, right? You need to always have a risk-based approach to mitigate all of those gaps and at least find those risks to give the manufacturers the opportunity to choose the right packaging solution. So the right packaging solution is directly linked to the risk level that you have during your supply chain. And this is why, for us, it's step-by-step risk analysis in our, in how we process the shipment. And this is how we become really a solid partner to ensure that our customers are ensuring that they close the loop in their supply chain, they maintain the integrity of the product, and they have the peace of mind with end-to-end visibility that nowadays it's very easy, right? end-to-end visibility, end-to-end tracking, but also we expect from the industry, because I have seen this a lot. This is the last point. I want to say it. I'm a logistics service provider. Please do not squeeze your service provider to the point you know that they are not doing profits anymore, because this is not sustainable. Allow them to do a little bit margins there, because eventually this is the only way they can survive, and they don't round corners, and they ensure that you always have the best service across, the whole supply chain. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's very well said, and I believe the feeling is mutual
Thank
among you. No words to describe that, right?
Thank you.
So the crux is the collaboration will lead us to success. Today, we still work in silos. Excellence, seamlessness will not come at a low cost. It will have a cost associated to it. I think Devang and Vijay might have a different opinion. Just joking, but
Can I add here? Your cost of logistic will be equivalent to your cost of failure.
cost of?
Always proportional to cost of failure.
Absolutely.
Always.
Absolutely.
But remember, we are in India.
Correct.
Thank you, Renol. I think you have fact check all of us. I would like to add something here. You mentioned about India, Europe, and US. Just one thing to add here. I think India is catching up and catching up fast. US, Europe, they were there for last 3 to 4 decades. They were ahead of the curve as far as this technology, infrastructure, and investment were concerned. I think if you see India, in last 10 to 15 years, we have grown significantly. And with the pace which we are growing, I know we have, all of us sitting here has area of improvement, including our partners. We have been closing that gap very fast.
Correct.
And despite of all the challenges, we still are the world pharmacy. And we handle the cold chain products reasonably well with the least of temperature variation. I'm very sure if we do a better job and close up the infrastructure gap, we still can go a long way.
Yeah,
so I think all of us can assure that we will be there, and we are improving, and we will be for sure matching that.
Yeah, India, I would say India is progressing rapidly toward maturity and readiness. That is for sure. We are all seeing this in terms of national strategy being set, being set in place, in terms of regional policies being set in place to support that, in terms of expanding the infrastructure with more and more cold chain facilities, right? The only challenge that we have is the readiness of the industry equally across the country. So this is where the gap is. We need more uniformity. We need the peace of mind, not only in specific zones. We need the peace of mind end to end across India, and this is the objective of all what we are doing.
Okay. This is I didn't want to interrupt them, but this is the discussion that we all love to hear from a logistics service provider and a logistics service receiver, right? Wasn't that interesting? Yeah. But moving on to I'm doing justice to my other colleagues. We have Prakash from Gina Critic Care. Prakash, I believe you will have a lot of points to add to what Roland has expressed. So my question to you is, cold chain management has gone from niche concern to a critical pillar of pharma logistics. What's driving this shift, and why is it more important now than ever before? Is it just about compliance, or is patient safety finally taking the center stage?
Am I audible?
Yes, it's clear.
Now it's good.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for inviting me, Global Pharma team, into this panel discussion. Coming back to the questions Fletcher has asked regarding the importance of cold chain in current scenario. So cold chain has been always an important factor for pharmaceutical, but nowadays it is getting more attention. It is mainly because of post-COVID-19 and recent geopolitical issues. Everybody in the entire supply chain has realized the importance of having the robust cold chain infrastructure in place. Cold chain management always helped specifically to maintain the integrity and efficacy of the product, to achieve the ultimate goal of patient safety. At the same time, it also helps in terms of managing or maintaining the shelf life or extension of the shelf life of the product. Even a minor fluctuation in the temperature excursion can lead to a big financial losses, can lead to a quality issue into the project, and entire batch can be rejected by the quality team or the at a receiver end. Or if it goes unmonitored and administered the dosage or medicines to the patient can lead to a severe, impact on patient health as well. Therefore, cold chain management is so important. Another aspect of the cold chain is gaining momentum across the globe, not only in India, but across the globe is because we see the innovation is happening every day in the field of science. New therapies are coming. New therapies are being developed based on the patient-centric therapies are coming. Precise medicines are, treatments are in pipeline, which require the strict and stringent temperature range. If I talk about cell and gene therapies, especially like if I take example of CAR T therapies, which require to move on minus 196 degrees Celsius using liquid nitrogen containers. Coming back to minus 80 degrees Celsius, some of the biologics, even some of the mRNA vaccines that we are currently, studying into the newspaper, Russia is coming up with the mRNA base for cancer patient. These kind of biological-based therapies and these mRNA-based vaccines required a stringent temperature of ultra-frozen minus 80 degrees Celsius. Some of the plasma-based therapies, some of the specialty high-value APIs, which required a controlled frozen like minus 25 to minus 15 degrees Celsius. And some of the, as Vijay and Devang has mentioned, some of the biosimilar product and I would say majority of the biosimilar product and biological base and vaccines required 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, and 15 to 25 degree has been always into the requirement, especially for non-sterile and generic medicines being shipped on 15 to 25 degrees Celsius. Therefore, the cold chain is getting momentum, and nowadays every day you see conferences or events or some knowledge sharing session is happening around the cold chain. Today in this interesting panel also you can see the importance of cold chain. And I'm sure, the more and more patient-centric treatment approach is happening, patient-centric treatments are being developed would require a stringent temperature requirement. Hence, therefore, the temperature importance is important than ever before.
Correct, correct. Very well said. So, moving on to Pramod, one of the very important, aspect of this supply chain, which is the airport and the cargo terminal. Now, Pramod representing one of the busiest cargo terminals in India, which is Mumbai. So Manoj, from your vantage point, at the airport terminals, what are the key bottlenecks? Is it handling temperature-sensitive shipments efficiently, or handling temperature-sensitive shipments efficiently? Is it the infrastructure, coordination, or the policy? Is it one, or is it a mix of all three? And what are, the quick wins that can actually make a big difference here, especially to all the, these service receivers?
Good evening, everyone.
Now it's coming.
So thank you, Stat, for having me here. It's an honor being on this panel. And I'll quickly get on to the points. Most of the points, I think, have been covered by our actual service, people who get service from us. That's the shippers, and we have the freight forwarders here also. Quick points. One is infrastructure. We say that pharma is booming in India. We are 40% to the US. We are 60% with vaccines. Is the infrastructure, I'm talking about airport, catching up to that? I don't think that's justice. It's not happening yet. We are on the way, but it's not there yet. So a lot of stuff to be done, a lot of work to be done. And
so actually we are not playing catching up.
Yeah.
We are catching up.
We are catching up, and you can see with the new infrastructure, new airports, that's happening. There's a boom in aviation, so is with the infrastructure, also with the cargo industries and cold chain facilities. Next, I think you've touched on the road also, that requires, and that's also been worked on. So on the whole, I think we are still to get there, but we are doing it, and it should be done at a good, quick pace. So we need to catch up with the production that's happening, and that's how we can export more in the way it needs to go. So infrastructure is one. Same at the airports. I've seen a lot of airports coming up now with larger capacities for handling not only export but also import of temperature-controlled shipments. Next, we go to coordination. I see there's a lapse in coordinating, I would say, communication between multiple stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, it starts all the way from the shipper, the trucker, the freight forwarder, then it's us at the terminal, it's the customs, the Vyas, the DGCA, the airport operator, and
All
then going
regulatory
across the other way to
LPGs.
the airlines and going forward. So we have in Mumbai a platform where stakeholders can talk. We're already working on the IT technology solutions. We have a platform, which is a community platform, which has started about 8 years back, 5 years back at the airport, where a freight forwarder initiates the heavy bill, and it goes all the way, is visible to all the stakeholders, including getting a Leo from the customs and its real-time visibility. From our terminal point of view, we have an app available. The moment the cargo hits our terminal, till the time it is taken off in a particular flight, you got visibility milestones on the app to anyone who has that app, which is available on Google Play. You just need the available number, and you can track it all the way that it is uplifted, not only the time, but also the temperature along with it. So this is some sort of a visibility that's required, but we require this right from the time it leaves the manufacturer till it reaches the destination. So that's something which we need to work on also. The issue here I find is sharing of information, which doesn't come easy. Sharing of information between all the stakeholders is not yet there. It's being worked on. There are too many softwares to interface. I mean, everyone has their own software. Interfacing, we have technologies. We talk about things like blockchain, IoT, etc., AI and all that stuff, but we need to have that trust level and want to integrate with all the entire shipment along the way to check whether it actually reaches. And that's a peace of mind to the shipper. Like the shipper says, once it is out of his factory, he doesn't know what happens to it. So he needs that visibility, time, as well as temperature, and where the shipment is at what time. The next challenge that I see is, of course, a little bit of regulatory requirements that, again, is being worked on, but that's also happening. Training is very important. All of us, a lot of us decision makers here, but the people who handle the cargo are the blue-collar guys who are on the floor. Those are the people who need to be trained to be sensitive to this information. We have heard the earlier panels talking about medicine that goes to any one of us could be sick. We would require that medication. Efficacy is important. How we handle the medication through the cool chain to ensure that that particular piece of medicine or that drug that reaches the final patient who's waiting somewhere, could be serious, depending on the kind of medication that is being sent, actually gets healed rather than doesn't. So what we have done is we have continuous training for our teams on ground, especially those are the guys who are touching your cargo, touching the shipments, whether it's vaccines or it is the pharmaceuticals that we manage. We have an in-house pharmacist, a trained pharmacist who does this training in local language if required. The training is not only about the basic loading on a ULD, I'm sure everyone's aware of it, the way you load a pallet or things like that. It's also about the tolerance limit of the temperature when it goes beyond. Every drug has a tolerance amount. We train them about that. We talk about pressure on which the box can be thrown or put onto a pallet because the vial shouldn't crack. That's the kind of information that we have. Also, we have special processes in place where we see that a cargo that is a vaccine has a green channel, doesn't need to wait for too long, it's 2 to 8. Cargo that needs to go in active containers is done right from the truck to the active container, about 7-8 minutes per container. So all those trainings have been given to the people, especially the blue-collar training staff, and that's repeated continuously. So these are the few things that I would like to emphasize on. Also, we have another issue that happens is we have flights which go on time. So this, I think, is a challenge for most of our terminals. Flights depart on a particular time. The trucks carrying the cargo do not come in that sequence. So when they're not in that sequence, you find there's a cargo that's going tomorrow that's come today, but the guy who's going tonight is not yet come. So these are the challenges that we face due to road issues or due to last minute, challenges that cargo comes late, so we have to gear up for that. So those are the kind of challenges also we've been trained for. And I think on the whole, these are the major points that we would need to work on. Definitely, we are going to be there soon, and we're working on all these.
Thank you so much, Pramod. You have actually, Pramod, you have very well, represented the facts, not just from Mumbai, but for across all the airports and all the cargo terminals.
Just to add on,
Devang
I
would like
think
to
maybe some of the couple of the points, like you can organize certain town halls also, or maybe some quarterly engagement between all the service providers. It could be customs, it could be the exporters. So basically how you have serviced and what are the lapses or what are the issues that the exporters or you guys have undergone that can be filtered through these quarterly engagements. That is one of the things. Today, if I have to see the proximity or the pioneer what Mumbai airport enjoys is, today the cargoes are coming all the way from the south to Bombay also because of some of the freighters or the airline operators who are operating from the Mumbai only. The connections are so pretty good. So from that angle also, I think maybe these kind of certain initiatives, if you take it on, the training, the engagements, that can also serve a particular how you can improve your services, and we can talk to the actual service providers also.
So I just have a point here. We have actually also done that. We have sent our team to one of the vaccine companies, big vaccine companies, to understand how the vaccine is actually packed. To see that the vials, the way the vials are put in a box, the pack sizes, this is way beyond COVID. That's how we were very prepared for COVID. We did a lot of movement during COVID. In fact, we did more cargo during COVID than we do now because pharma was very active at that point of time. We sent a team of our ground staff, again the blue-collar staff, spent a day there looking at how the vaccines are being packed, the way it goes into the truck, the sequence of packing into the truck. So when I say sequence, I say the flight that goes later goes at the back of the 40-footer, and the flight that goes now goes first. So I offloaded in that sequence. Besides that, on surge days, now we have a quarter end coming up, we have a year end and things like that. We already speak to the shippers along with the freight forwarders to understand the volumes coming in, at least 8 to 10 days before the end of the month. And accordingly, resources are planned. Now, resources are planned. When I talk about resource, it could be equipment, but it's also our manpower. Also the strategy of getting the trucks in the morning. Today, there are no trucks coming in the morning. But in our pharma terminal, we have trucks coming from 5 a.m. That's how we plan the cargo. Speak to the truckers, the freight forwarders. Offloading is done. My shift is slack in the morning. So that's the time when I load the cargo. This morning, we did a 40-ton freighter in the morning shift very comfortably because there was no load. And the load comes post-lunch. So that's how we manage.
Sorry. So that's a perfect example of collaboration, right? So, the forward shippers, manufacturers, they have to open the doors. They have to open the doors. They have to welcome the LSPs, and not just LSPs. Obviously, yes, they are always there. But what's really required is the airports and the cargo terminals today plays a very, very critical role. It is highly important for them to understand the requirement of temperature-sensitive cargo handling, not just for them, but for other products also. But if you open the doors and you start collaborating, that's how you see success.
Definitely.
So, we will do a quick sleep test of all the audience who are sitting here, just to see how many of you are awake. I hope you are all enjoying this. So, Libin, can we quickly have the QR code? I'm so sorry, it is not a sleep test. It's just a QR code. We need you to respond on 3 quick questions, and this is on which we will have our closing statements. Yes, please. You guys can quickly scan and answer the 3 questions, please.
But this time they will get a trip to the US, not to Turkey, right?
I'm sorry?
This time the first 15 will get a trip to the US, not to Turkey.
You never know.
Sir,
So
we
what-
are not told what is the full form of USA.
I'll take it first.
So
We are
what
not
is
told
the
the full form of USA. We have USA in Mumbai also.
Here you go.
I would request all of you to please start voting for it. What is the biggest challenge you face in maintaining the cold chain integrity? So this is why we are doing this, is to understand the sense and the feel of the audience here, and this is on which we'll have. Oh wow, what is the biggest challenge you face in maintaining cold chain integrity? Wow, it's regulatory compliance, not temperature monitoring, not packaging, not last mile delivery. Yes, it is, but wow, interesting. Perfect. Let's log this. Let's move on to the next one, please. Which innovation do you believe will most transform the cold chain logistics in the next 5 years? Is it IoT and real-time tracking? I'm not really sure if okay, it's anyways visible on your phone. AI predictive analysis, drone delivery, blockchain. Wow. Real-time tracking still leads it, and AI predictive analysis. Perfect. Okay.
It's always a mix.
Okay, great. Log this, and let's move on to the next one, please. What is your top priority when selecting a cold chain logistics partner? Is it reliability, cost, technology, capability, sustainability practice, global reach?
Be honest.
Very nice. Reliability.
Be honest. Be honest. You can say cost, it's fine.
Based on cost.
Great,
Yeah,
perfect. Let's log
I'm
this.
really surprised to see.
Let's log this. Let's log this. All right. Well, we had 2 more rounds of questions, but I didn't really realize that the first round of questions itself is going to cover our complete 1 hour. So I would all request you to give your closing statements and anything that you would like to comment on all these questions and basis on which what people have answered to. Starting with Devang. Sorry.
I'll pick it up about the regulatory. So on the regulatory aspect, I think if we have to understand at a very global level, today there is a lot of things which the customs from the back end has already done. We have faceless clearances, we have very rapid, the drawbacks or the incentives or so many other things which the exporter needs to make the things in a more sustainable way. These supports are already there from the government side. We have national logistics policy which has been rolled out 2 years back, and they are clearly looking at those aspects. We have advanced license, so many other things from the government side, which we term it as a back end. So that back end support is already there for the exporters. Now coming to the front end, what do we need? Basically from the regulatory point of view, we need to ensure that we are ensuring a good manufacturing practices. We are abiding by the local governance to whatever destinations we are exporting, whether it is US, Europe, Africa, Russia, any of the regions, LATAM, we are abiding by their local governances. These are some of the aspects, be it their documentation, the import clearances, the certifications, what you have to take it, maybe from the back end OSAs, like the occupational certificate, you need it for your manufacturing side, the ISOs. So all those aspects on the regulatory sides are very critical, very important when you look at partnering with the destination, and you want to stay ahead of the curve so that your medicines are procured over there, especially in the generic market, which is very highly competitive. I'm sure one of my partner is sitting over here as a competition, as a partner also. So these are some of the aspects which are very, very important when you have to actually cater a regulated market or a semi-regulated market, that you are ensuring with all the sorts of documentation, be it your export invoice or the regulations, your import permits, your licenses, your alignment with the local FDA who are issuing these manufacturing license. So these are very, very important aspects, and I think there has been a lot of work done by the manufacturers from all those aspects.
Perfect. Vijay?
Yeah, I'll quickly touch on regulatory. Completely agree. Regulatory is key for everyone. From an international business perspective, I would say from a manufacturing or from a logistics service providers, I would say we are there. I would say we have improved a lot in terms of services because we have no option, because we also know that if anything goes wrong, it will lead to extra cost at the end, okay? Whether it is detention, damage, or the other thing as well, or you may lose your customers as well because you sell in bulk. As far as India is concerned, of course, the CDSO,
Taking the closing statements and closing.
you must have heard recently at the start of the year that 74 plants, manufacturing plants have been closed by the regulatory authority. They found unstandard drugs not following certain guidelines. India also is in the verge of implementing GDP guidelines for the country, which was earlier framed. We lacked certain actions with regards to infrastructure and other things, but I think very soon in the next 1 or 2 years, what I understand from the MOH, that we are serious enough to actually launch that. So I think when that happens, I would say the community part, which you talked about, I think everything will come together in terms of making sure end-to-end visibility is there. On the IoT and real-time tracking, this is clearly at most, from an international market, it is very much regulated. So whatever from the product which are serialized till it actually reaches the customer or your warehouse in the destination, example, US, and for your customers, that is clearly tracked and traced with serialization and all. At the same time, the temperature monitoring solutions by some of the innovative companies are also there where the real-time tracking is possible. But I would say the real challenge to all the technology providers, I would say that for India perspective, I would say that's a huge opportunity. There's a gap. So from as a manufacturer, I can track till the distributor or at my warehouses or at the C&Fs, I can definitely track. But the moment it goes to my distributors and retailers, I think that's one piece I would say if anybody can solve huge business for that organization, I would say that. Okay? The last part is reliability. Of course, I would say, I think my colleague here talked about cost. I think every manufacturer would want to actually pay cost and have less, I would say, worries, okay, if there is reliability in place. Okay? So when you look at inventory as a whole, if you look at lead time, you look at the cost, the faster you move, I think it is better. So I'm okay to spend $1,000 more in sea if I know that the shipment is going to reach our destination within a stipulated time. But if I have varied lead times ranging from 25 to 40 or 50 days, then I end up keeping extra inventory in the value chain, which is again cost. So when I look at the total cost of ownership, that's where I would say selecting the right partner, selecting the right shipping company, selecting the right, I would say, the airlines with the first-time right approach, I think that becomes very critical for manufacturers like us.
Okay, perfect. So, gentlemen, I'm so sorry. Shipper gets the last say because they have a last say. I'm so sorry because screen is blinking, so we will still have to, call it to the end. So, thank you all, my panelists, a wonderful panelist for a very insightful and an engaging discussion. From infrastructure gaps to the global best practices, and from collaboration to compliances. Today's conversation has made it clear that India's cold chain is evolving rapidly, right? But there is still grounds to cover. Now, with innovation, partnership, and policy alignments, we are not just keeping things cool, but we are getting the stage set for future-ready pharma supply chain. Let's keep the momentum going. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.